It made me cry.
This One's Wife: How to Stage a Non-Royal Tour. It was only going to be a matter of time before Hilary Rose had her observations in the Times about the Nigerian tour, which highlights the many problematic issues that arise from it. She writes, "The way to understand the latest episode of the Harry and This One's Wife show is to cast your mind back to 2018. This was when everything in the garden was rosy and royal. The newlywed Sussexes were on tour in Australia, and cheering crowds turned out to greet them. So far, so good, and Harry dutifully worked them. This One's Wife, however, had a different take on the situation. According to Valentine Lowe in his book Courtiers, she said, 'I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this. It's taken 6 years, an awful lot of missteps and a batch of strawberry jam. But in Nigeria over the weekend, might they finally have done it? Have they become fully fledged money-making renter-royals?' Nigeria is not, on the face of it, an auspicious place to stage a non-royal royal tour. 87 million Nigerians live below the poverty line, and it's so dangerous that both the Foreign Office and the US State Department advise against all travel to parts of the country. It's a punchy destination for a couple who have complained to the High Court that they don't feel safe in England, but needs must. Hypocrisy. They were invited by the Chief of Defence Staff." Pausing there, this was just done to make him look good with the renter-royals, nothing to do with wanting to advance the cause of Nigerians. And now that This One's Wife jam is making its own way in the world, off they went. The trip was ostensibly about the Invictus Games, which Nigeria hopes one day to host. This One's Wife also found out a few years ago, through a genealogy test, that she is 43% Nigerian. But there's a reason why the tight schedule included a polo match, and it's not because wounded veterans are queuing up to play it. It's because, as ever, it's less about the cause and more about Harry and This One's Wife. Pausing there, Harry has allowed his wife to hijack his project, turning it into the This One's Wife games, and also this has resulted in him allowing this trip to be supposedly about Invictus, when in actual fact it's got very little to do with it. And it's all about cosplaying as royals, generating some footage to try and get more money out of Netflix. Their latest project with Netflix is a documentary about the world of polo and the people who play it. Cue a chukker or two on the Invictus tour to the deafening soundtrack of two birds being killed with one stone. True, it would take a heart of stone not to look at some of the coverage and laugh. The golden chairs marked Duke and Duchess, the dinner where images of the couple were projected onto the walls, but just you wait until the tour has been slickly edited at Netflix HQ to look like the real royal deal. Polo? Who cares about polo? You really think Netflix has commissioned a long documentary about a sport few people play and nobody cares about? It'll bear as much resemblance to the world of polo as a polo mint. It will effectively be the follow-up to the fly-in-the-wall documentary Harry and This One's Wife, but with more horses. And check out the photos of This One's Wife getting a woman to move away from Harry at a photo op of them at a polo match in Florida last month. What the hapless woman was trying to do we may never know. Her job, perhaps. Whoever she was surplus to requirements and ruining their close-up. If the antics in Nigeria prove anything, it's that if it walks like a royal tour and it talks like a royal tour, most people will think it's a royal tour. Pausing there. Indeed, can be seen in the coverage that they've often been referred to as a royal tour, even though it's not. This, of course, is something that This One's Wife is relied upon. She doesn't want to be part of the royal family, but she wants to maintain that she's a royal in order to utilise that as a means of triangulating people in order to get to the prime aims. The British High Commissioner can say all he likes that the couple were visiting in a private capacity. For most of the world, that's semantics. Drill down into the usual checklist for royal tours, and a royal tour is exactly what they've ordered. Do something cultural, wear local clothing, join in with an activity, preferably non-sweaty, glam up for a state dinner, act as if you're having a lovely time, and hug small children. They've cut out all the boring bits, starting with duty. Church services, precedents, troop inspections, opening new hospital wings in the rain, anything where you have no control over the lighting or might not be in the front row, or where someone else might ruin your close-up. Naturally, this one's wife can't stand all of those things because then she's not the main individual. The strategy for their team may as well be to ask, what would the Princess Royal do, and then do the opposite. They affect not to care what anyone in the UK thinks, but don't entirely succeed because they recently hired a London-based PR man, Charlie Gibson. He's evidently hit the ground running and was seen loitering in the background over the weekend, as Harry and this one's wife swept into some engagement or other where presumably the lighting was just right. Their trusted photographer, Meghan Harriman, one of the world's most thin-skinned individuals, was also part of the roadshow. As keen as the couple are on a free press, it doesn't extend to coverage of them. They've limited the possibility of photographs they don't want by removing all photographers not on their payroll, assertion of control, and only visiting places where that can be rigidly enforced, assertion of control. It's all balmy, because this sort of royal tour is exactly what they didn't want to do. Which, it's not a surprise, this is the hypocrisy of this one's wife. Alas, jam and execrable podcasts don't pay the bills. Harry could be forgiven for yearning for the days when there were no bills to pay, and if they were, Daddy paid them. At a solo engagement for a children's charity in London last week, he said that the more opportunity he had to do those kind of events, the more people would know about the charity's incredible work. Does he understand the irony? Does he realise that's as good a summary as any of the work done by the royal family, from which he fled? Royalty during the last reign was far more about what you did and less about what you looked like. The rise of celebrity culture and the internet changed that, and Harry and this one's wife are milking it. There's no point feeling aggrieved on behalf of Queen Elizabeth, to whom they caused so much distress in her final years. There's no point feeling affronted by their relentless attempts to monetize the few moments they actually spent as working royals, all of which they later said they hated. Rejoice instead that if they can make this rent-a-royal thing work, we might be spared the endless moaning, and the real royals might be left in peace to get on with shaking hands and wearing tiaras. If everyone in Nigeria thinks Harry and this one's wife are great, all I can say is, well, so did we once. Monetizing royalty is, as Elizabeth pointed out, incompatible with a life of service. Service Monty Shitshow style involves holding out the card reader for payment. I doubt the gratuity is included. Hilary Rose's take upon how to stage a non-royal tour, which actually is a royal tour, and demonstrating once again the condemnation of the way that this one's wife and Harry have conducted themselves. This form of criticism, legitimate as it is, would be rejected by this one's wife, as she would see it as being hateful, because if you don't agree with this one's wife, that's what you are. You are a hater. And that kind of jaundiced view has been percolating into the tiny minds of her supporters. This one's wife is utterly deluded. She cannot see the hypocrisy of behaving like a royal when she says she doesn't want to be one. The only reason that she is known is because she married a prince. That's it. She has nothing whatsoever to offer. And, having tried the UK and failed, having tried the United States and failed, she has tried Nigeria instead. But you already know what many Nigerians think of her. Once again, this deluded individual attempts to grift and fails. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.